Welcome to this episode of ExceedTV. ExceedTV is an online video production produced by Exceed Online. We are an e-commerce and online marketing agency based in Auckland, New Zealand and Sydney, Australia. I'll be your host today along with Lance O'Grady. My name is Jason Greenwood. Great to have you along with us today. We're going to be talking about a pretty interesting topic this week. It's traffic sources in Google Analytics. Well, it's not specifically just Google Analytics, but it's traffic sources for your website. Doesn't sound like maybe a sexy topic, but considering the fact that you have to get visitors to your website before you can have the opportunity to have them buy, it's pretty important that you understand where those visitors are coming from, how you can influence those sources, what, information you can glean, particularly within Google Analytics about those sources and how you can continue to exploit those sources, maximize the traffic coming from those sources, and increase the numbers of visitors coming from those various different sources. So, Lance, what I'd like to do is I'd like to, get stuck into straight into the different types of traffic sources that we'll be talking about today. Just off the sheet that we're talking from here. Obviously, we've got direct traffic, we've got referral traffic, we've got search traffic, and we've got campaign traffic. That's really the four key sources of traffic that we'll be discussing in detail today and how they relate to our viewers' websites. So you want to start off and launch straight in?
Yeah, I guess we'll just do a quick explanation of what each traffic source is before we say why they're important, just so everyone is on the same page. So direct traffic is fairly straightforward. I mean, that's obviously people who are coming directly to your website, so that's by them typing the URL in the URL bar, or they could have bookmarked it and be coming that way.
Sure.
Referral traffic is if they have been referred from another site. So if they've come from Facebook, for example, Facebook would be the referrer, and they've clicked a link there and they've come through to your website. Then you've got search traffic, which is broken down into organic or paid traffic. So organic is the free search results. So if you type in, e-commerce websites, the free results will be the ones that are just below the ads, and those are optimized by SEO and things like that. So that's the organic search traffic source, and then you've got paid, which is obviously PPC. So that's AdWords or Yahoo or Bing, or if you're using any of those other networks. The final traffic source is campaign traffic. So this is people from various campaigns you might have set up, and that's basically from URL tracking. So if you've sent out an email campaign,
sure,
anyone who clicks links within the email campaign, sure, is targeted as a campaign, and then you can monitor the performance of that campaign and see how those users have used the website and what they've done and if they've bought and all that type of thing.
Sure.
So I guess now that we understand at a high level what those traffic sources are, we can talk about why you'd want to know them.
Sure.
So if you want to take direct traffic, and we can go from there.
Absolutely. Direct traffic, as Lance said, is traffic that originates or comes to your website via either one of two ways. Either typing in your URL, your web address, directly into their address bar in their web browser, or if they've got you bookmarked. So obviously a bookmark is a great thing because of the fact that means that you are important enough to your visitors that they want to come back and visit you again, be able to find you easily, so they chuck a bookmark up on their address bar and bang, away they go. So this source is particularly important around branded keywords. So it really is a good indicator of what kind of penetration your brand has, what kind of loyalty your brand has, and how well you're doing in those stakes. So obviously over time, as you build your brand, so obviously at launch you may not see a lot of direct traffic because your brand is not well known. It's not an authority in its industry. Visitors haven't had a chance to bookmark the site because you haven't had a lot of visitors yet. So it takes time to build a brand following. So direct traffic is really a measure of brand penetration more than anything else. So obviously if in a perfect world, you'd ideally like to see a good percentage of your traffic coming directly, because that means you've got a good following. Circa that 20% level would be a good level to target over time. Then obviously when you start doing some of your other online advertising efforts, online optimization efforts in terms of SEO, you'll see those statistics skew over time. But realistically, it is a really, really good indicator of brand penetration. So we're looking for decent direct visitor numbers, and we're looking for obviously all traffic sources to increase over time in terms of the visitor numbers they're contributing to your site. But in terms of percentages, you're not going to see great percentages out of the gate, but you should be looking to target that maybe 20 to 30% of your visitors over time.
Okay. Okay, well that's as you say, direct is definitely a main traffic source, and it's something that you should definitely keep an eye on, and it definitely gives you an idea of how well you're doing in the market.
Sure.
Even offline, so how well your offline advertising is going, which is a big one, which is fairly immeasurable elsewhere, but you can kind of see how well it's working online.
That's right. You can. I mean, I guess in terms of offline marketing, there are ways that you can. We have exposure to a lot of direct marketing companies that online is one component of their direct marketing, and they will tag their campaigns with various different, because within Google Analytics, obviously you can tag traffic as originating from a specific campaign. But what some companies will do, instead of actually tagging each campaign, is they'll have a specific unique URL that they'll put onto the ad, the paper ad. It might be a catalog, it might be a mailing, it might be an insert, something like that. And then obviously when the potential visitor receives that paper advertising or whatever form of direct advertising, it might have been a billboard, it might have been whatever, then they go there, particularly if they've got a unique URL, then they can track that independently. It's still considered a direct traffic source, because they didn't type it into a search engine, they didn't originate from another referral, they directly typed that in. So it's still going to show up in the Google Analytics traffic sources as a piece of direct traffic. So as you say, it does get some cross-pollination from offline efforts as well, but definitely an important traffic source.
Now, another important traffic source is referral traffic, and this is, as I mentioned, people who have come from another site and they've been directed to your site via a link. And so within Google Analytics, you can see this referral traffic, and you can see where they've come from. And I guess one of the important ideas behind this is, say you were paying for advertising on another site,
sure,
and you could go into Google Analytics and you could see how many people have come from that site. So if you're paying, $500 a month for advertising on someone's site, and you go in there and see 20 people have visited and none of them have converted, you might have to rethink some things and say, well, actually, that $500 is basically a waste of money.
Sure.
On the flip side of that, though, you could look and see that 1,000 people have come from a referral that you have had no relationship with at all, and these 1,000 people, out of them you've got a high conversion rate, the traffic is good, they're looking around the site, they're buying things. You might think, well, we aren't even doing anything on that site, and they're sending us lots of traffic. So what could we do to
how can we strengthen that partnership?
How can we build the relationship with them so we could potentially get more traffic from their site? Why are we getting this traffic? Maybe go look, see what they're doing. They're helping your brand, so you want to try and work out what you could do to grow that. Because if they're sending 1,000 without doing anything, if you put effort in, you might be able to get 20,000. Who knows?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that springs to mind for me in terms of referral traffic, and as you pointed out, certainly if you've got an existing relationship, particularly one that you're paying for with a website, whether it be your own website that you're driving traffic from, and that's another good thing is there's many businesses that have multiple websites sitting underneath their umbrella brand, and they want to see how well those brands or those unique sites, those unique URLs, unique regional sites in many instances, are cross-pollinating each other. So that's another good way to see that, is to look at that referral list. The other thing that springs to mind that's pretty relevant, particularly in terms of referrals, is if you are on a shopping comparison website. So let's say you're paying a fee to be on Price by New Zealand, for example, which allows you to compare prices primarily amongst electronic goods, and then they lead out to the sites that are advertising on that site. Another one is Get Price in Australia. Obviously, if you're spending, as Lance said, if you're spending $500 a month, you can look at that, you can drill down into that particular referral source, you can see what sort of traffic numbers you're getting, what percentage of the time they convert at, that unique source's average order value, which is also pretty key. And then you can see what sort of revenue that particular source drove for you in that given month. So if you've spent $500 on advertising through that referral, and it's driven $200 worth of revenue, then it's possibly a time to re-look at the spend in that area and possibly reallocate it somewhere else.
I guess moving on from referral traffic, there's also search traffic, which I mentioned, and under that you've got organic and paid traffic. So starting with organic traffic,
sure.
I guess the first thing you'll look at when you're looking at your organic traffic report, the first thing you might want to check is it basically tells you how your organic or your SEO efforts are working.
Sure.
Typically, what you'd like to do with this one is you can't really look at a month. I mean, you can look at a month to get a rough idea of revenue in a month, but you want to look at a trend over time so you can see how you're tracking. Yes. Are you getting more traffic or less traffic? And if you're getting less traffic, then you need to really think about what you're doing in terms of SEO, if you're doing any, or if it's somewhere, perhaps ask them why the results aren't good.
Yes.
So I mean, that's really what you're going to find with organic, and I guess it's also looking at more specifically, while digging down into that, you can see what keywords are driving the traffic, and
Sure.
then work at, there might be keywords in there that you didn't know were driving the traffic, and you can think, well, what can I do to improve that? If that's what they're doing now, do I have PPC campaigns around it? Am I targeting that for any kind of other marketing?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I'd initially say with organic rankings. Do you have anything else to add about that?
Yeah, I think organic is really, because it's free traffic, that is really, it's free in the sense that once you have an organic ranking, you're no longer paying. You don't pay for every click that someone makes in a search engine for that particular listing. Now, you may fluctuate over time, and in that sense, it's not free because you need to continue to do optimization, create content around those keywords to stay relevant, and also there's going to be increased competition over time. If it's a valuable keyword and there's any money to be made around that particular keyword or phrase, then you can bet you're not the only business that is trying to make a buck off that keyword. So certainly there will be changes in terms of those rankings over time, but as Lance pointed out, it's definitely very, very important to drill down into the keyword drivers within the organic traffic. So yes, you want to look holistically at your organic traffic, say over the previous 3 to 6 months, and make sure that your organic traffic is climbing, because if it's not climbing, then it means that your SEO efforts, your search engine optimization efforts, both on and off page, probably aren't paying the dividends that you would expect them to, and perhaps a little more attention needs to be paid to that. So certainly the overall trend is very important in terms of organic results, but drilling down into those specific keywords is so important.
And I guess on that same line, you've got to think about paid traffic, and that's kind of, I would say, one of the most important ones to look at, especially in GA, because you're paying for that traffic.
That's right.
This is an ongoing advertising cost, and you need to be thinking, am I spending my money in the most appropriate place, and are the keywords I'm paying for actually helping?
That's right.
So when we look at search paid traffic, where you can drill down and see, are your campaigns driving the high quality relevant traffic that you want? Are they converting? So you can look at that at a campaign level and dig down into an ad group and keyword level, and you can say, well, the overall ad group is performing well, but this keyword here is dropping the performance. We need to either get rid of it or optimize it further so that the overall ad group and then the campaign can increase, because that's the overall goal. You want to make sure that all of your campaigns are performing at their peak, so you can make as much money as you can with, while minimizing the cost.
Absolutely, and one of the things that Google Analytics doesn't tell you within the paid sphere of your sources, it doesn't tell you what sort of keyword targeting you're doing. So you'll see the keyword that triggered the ad and drove the piece of traffic to your site, and what they did after they had got to your site in terms of conversion, bounce, whatever. But what I won't tell you is things like, were you using exact match, phrase match, broad match, things like that. So it gives you a starting point. That's the key about Google Analytics is without diving into the numbers, just looking at the top level numbers and trends, brilliant, but it's not going to give you actionable insights. So it really comes down to drilling down, and GA becomes really a source of a starting point for looking at key aspects of your website that perhaps need addressing first, the low-hanging fruit. And as Lance pointed out, certainly by drilling down into those keywords that are driving traffic to your site and looking, starting at the sort of the top level of campaign, ad group, and then keyword, you can really start to build a picture of what words are paying off for you in terms of driving revenue, that are converting well, and you can obviously see from that where you're landing them as well. The ones that aren't performing well, then obviously you're going to still need to jump back into the AdWords interface and start drilling down in terms of the type of keyword targeting that you're doing, and make any adjustments as required in terms of optimizing those campaigns. You're still going to have to do that in AdWords. You can't do that in Analytics, but certainly Analytics gives you a place to start in terms of being able to see how those keywords and those campaigns overall are performing in terms of your paid advertising. As Lance pointed out, you're paying for that traffic, so it definitely is well worth your time or your agency's time. And in the case of us, obviously that's one of the key things that we do. We spend a lot of time in Google Analytics, even for clients that simply utilize us to help manage their PPC campaigns. There's a lot of agencies that don't have a lot of Google Analytics experience and background, and so therefore they miss out, I guess, on the connection and the additional data and feedback that you get from Google Analytics.
And then we've got the final traffic sources, campaigns, and I guess the main one that we use and that we see is from email campaigns. Obviously, There's all sorts of other traffic. It depends how you're tagging your URLs, but basically the main one you're going to see is email campaigns. And so when you send out an email campaign, most major email clients, I guess, will append all the URLs to add this tracking on the end with the campaign name.
Well, the newsletter management software will.
Yeah.
That's really the key. I mean, you've got to have, for example, with Magento. Magento is great in terms of being able to collect addresses, email addresses of people that want to be signed up for your newsletter, but it really just stores them, I guess, as a collection of email addresses. It doesn't even have the ability to have really, it doesn't, you can segment it to a degree, it can segment to a degree, but really it doesn't have, because it's not built, Magento was never built to be a really high-end, high-dollar newsletter manager. That's really not what its focus is. It's an e-commerce platform primarily. So we have obviously our own ExceedMail platform that we've developed for newsletter management and newsletter list management, email list management as well. But there's there's numerous ones out there, as Lance has pointed out, and in almost every case, whether you're exporting your list out of Magento into those platforms, or when people sign up on your website, it actually injects that information directly into your newsletter platform of choice. Whatever the case may be, as Lance pointed out, in almost all instances, any decent newsletter manager, email list manager program will automatically tag every link that you put into that particular campaign, into that particular newsletter campaign, will automatically tag it with the appropriate tags that Google Analytics will then pick up, so that you know which traffic has originated from those particular email campaigns.
You need to know these, 5 different traffic sources, because you need to know how they can enhance your business, and they all do, and they all do help enhance your business in different ways, in terms of paid advertising, SEO, email campaigns. They all help, and you need to know how they're helping before you can work out on how you can improve them. So I guess that's the point of kind of talking around them, making sure everyone knows why you should look into them. I think that links nicely into our next episode, which is going to be, I suppose, a lot more higher level about GA, and we're going to start talking around why you should be using it overall.
Yep.
And we're going to get interviews from another person here, the head of marketing, who's very good at Google Analytics. He's been using it since it came out, so we want to get him in, and he's going to be talking about it as well.
Yeah, he also happens to be our boss.
He also happens to be our boss, so we're going to get him involved.
Yep, we're going to get Ken Daniels in here. He's our analytics expert. Both Lance and myself are Google Analytics individual qualified, so we definitely do have a background and qualification in analytics. But Ken, in terms of I guess, really having been exposed and worked with analytics and actually gone to the Google Analytics conferences, he's the one that has the most depth of experience here. He runs most of our top-level analysis, both for our own business as well as for our client businesses, and I guess is rapidly showing us the depth of importance and the depth of scale that you can really pull out of analytics, and we'd like to share some of that with our viewers so that they can really see, hey, clickstream analysis is great. It's even better when it's free. So Google Analytics is a free tool in terms of getting it up and running. It's not something that Google charges for, but really to derive value from that, there is an expense associated with that, because unless you understand what the data is presenting you, the picture that it's painting, you can't take any actions from it. So you're having a tool installed on your site that doesn't actually do anything. So that's what we'll be talking about, how you can derive the most value possible out of a free tool, which is Google Analytics, and we'll discuss that in more detail in the next episode.
All right, great. Well, thank you for coming in today, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.